Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the Pelt Music Podcast. I'm delighted in a moment to be chatting with IST IST after they released Dagger a few weeks ago, their latest album. It's absolutely fantastic and one of our favourite albums so far this year. But before then, it's the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Pelt and on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Pelt Music. But that is enough of that. It's time to get on with the podcast. So let's go. Well, welcome to Matt and Adam from IST IST to the Pelt Music Podcast. I am absolutely delighted to have you on today because I have to say from the outset, I know it is only February for another day, so we're early in the year, and I have reviewed probably about 25, 30 albums thus far, but Dagger at the moment is top of the list. My favorite album so far of the year. Really just a phenomenal record that I often, doing the role I do, reviewing lots of albums, I don't get the opportunity to go back to the album so much because I'm jumping on to the next one to review. But I've, really added Dagger into my personal sort of playlist and absolutely loving it. So really looking forward to talking about it. So, I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
we'll start right there with Dagger. And how have you both found the response to the album so far?
It's been great. There's we did a run of dates at record shops promoting the album on release week up and down the country, and there was a definite feeling of uh, more sort of excitement than anything else we've ever done before. I think seems like the obvious thing to say, and everyone probably says that, but it was quite palpable really this time. It was one of those things where we thought, yeah, it feels like it's really landed well, and there's been a really nice spread of comments of people liking or seeing different parts of it as the highlight, which I've enjoyed as well. Because I've had it before where there's a few standout tracks that on other albums that everybody seems to like those ones in particular, but with this one it seems to be spread right across the board. So really sort of enjoyable to see that as an artist or songwriter or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it must feel good, especially when you can get that face-to-face feedback, because we're so online driven these days. But getting that must be amazing, and probably even more so. I mean, I've got to give like I'm in awe of the work ethic of the band. I mean, you're on the road pretty much continuously, and 5 albums you've released now in what 5, 6 years, pretty much. It's not a long time, and the days of that are pretty much gone. You're normally talking 2, 3, 4 years sometimes between releases for bands these days. And you jump straight off tour into recording Dagger. And reading the sort of quotes from yourselves around the time, you said that this was great for you because you didn't really have an agenda going in. You got to write more for yourselves. What was the experience like for you writing Dagger with that increased freedom?
I think we wrote it a lot over Christmas, sort of 2024, I think. So we'd done a lot of touring at the end of 2024, and we started recording Dagger sort of amongst all the spring dates last year. So it was sort of like we'd do a week of sort of pre-production, which is something that we did for the first time with our producer Joe Cross. We did it on Light a Bigger Fire, the album before Dagger. Um, so we before we went on tour, we'd sort of taken these songs apart, the demos that we'd done as a band, and Joe sort of got his hands around them and started making these sort of new versions of them. Essentially, it's sort of like half remixing a little bit. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but you just sort of throw in things at a wall really and seeing what sticks. So we did a lot of that, and then we'd go away for like we did the Europe tour in spring for like 2 weeks or whatever. So we had a bit of a break, and then we were back in for a few days, and then we were back out to Portugal, and then so it was all quite interspersed between it, which was quite nice really because I think playing shows gives you an idea of what sort of thing you want to go out and play next when you write some, at least for me anyway. I like to think, what am I gonna enjoy playing for the next 18 months and in the future, um, so I think it's good to sort of And you get that instant feedback, especially when, I think we were playing a couple of the new ones on that tour, and you sort of maybe throw in an extra little thing, and then you bring that to the recording. And then we finished, we recorded it over like June and July, the proper finished album, and it was sort of done, by August. So yeah, it was a nice sort of summer session, really. Doesn't look like it when you look at the album cover and you hear the music. It doesn't sound particularly summery, but that's sort of the way we work.
No, well, I mean, I'm going to get into the sort of aesthetics around the release and the looks of the sort of album and the videos in a moment. But I mean, just to sort of put a bow on that sort of element of talking about the album. I mean, you're a very DIY band. You do most things yourselves, which is tough because people think that musicians just quickly go into a studio for a few days, record an album and release it. They don't see everything else that goes around that release and what it takes for you to be able to get that music out there to people. So again, credit to yourselves for having the energy and the ability to do that. But when you do get the positive feedback that Dagger is clearly getting from all realms, be it the critics or the fans, does that give you a heightened sense of vindication?
No. No, it doesn't.
No.
No. I think if you start writing for other people, I think that's when it all goes to pot, really. I think I mean it's lovely, and I'm really pleased that everybody likes it, but it's not a driver. It's not like a destination that we look to get to. It's more of a just we do what we want to do, and it's a plus that people like it, but it's certainly not like it's not like a sigh of relief after. It's not like oh they like it, thank God. Yeah, it's more like we just do what we want. We just do what we want for ourselves. And like you say, it's a DIY ethic. So we haven't got record label shareholders to appease or anything like that. We're not looking for the latest trend. We're not trying to do anything that's radically different than anyone else. It's just what we want to do. So yeah, in short answer to your question, no, not really.
Well, I'm glad you expanded on it. But I mean, that's a really refreshing take, I will say. I mean, I'm quite an old school person in the way that I listen and consume my music and what I expect and want from music. And I'm quite disillusioned that in 2026, most people that are discovering new music are doing through 15-second TikToks and videos. They're not really interested in listening to a whole album. They just want that quick little fix, and then they're moving on to the next thing. Whereas, like I say, I really like to embed myself in and savor the music that I am listening to. So I mean, I can absolutely get behind that mindset of yours that actually
Well,
that noise doesn't matter.
I mean, that's great. I'm glad you feel like that. I mean, one of the things that we have been really fortunate in is that our sort of core fan base, or whatever, seems to be very much of that ilk. We tend to get people who join us and stay, sort of thing, which is great. And that's a fantastic thing. That's a different thing altogether, because there's lots of different elements to being in a band. Like you say before, as a DIY band, we're also essentially running a business, but we've also got like the experience of live as well as the music and everything like that. And it's really nice that quite a lot of our fans have met other people and become friends, and they come to shows together. And I think they've even had romantic romantic engagements based on it and all that sort of thing. And that's another thing altogether. So in that sense, it's great that people feel part of something, part of a gang or whatever, which I think is quite important when it comes to music. And it's not like you say, throw away 15-second riffs on TikTok or whatever. It's very hard to feel a part of that. Whereas with us, we tend to have people in here and also over in Europe who follow us almost like a religion, basically, like as some kind of cult leader, which is great. That's a really good thing, and it's really nice to see similar faces coming to lots of different shows, And I do quite often wonder how the bloody hell they get there, really, because you'll see someone at a gig in Leeds, and then a couple of weeks later in like bloody Serbia or something, and you think, well, it's
That
like,
is incredible.
what, what,
Yeah.
what, what are you planning on getting from tonight that you didn't get 2 weeks ago in Leeds? Well, I'm glad they do, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. When you can get people invested and you can build a community as you have as a band,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to see. It really, really is. And yeah, like as we've all touched on slightly, the album as a whole here is what I want to celebrate. I think there's obviously some tracks in there that, are really, they're all really enjoyable, obviously. But for me, what really made me fall in love with the record was just from start to finish it's an album, it's a proper album. It's not just a set of songs that have all been released over the last 5 years chucked together in a package and just sort of thrown out there. It is designed to be listened to as an album. So my plea to the listeners, again, dedicated fan base for IST. I'm sure most people listening to this podcast have probably listened to the album already, but from the full Pelt regulars, please do check out this album as a whole. But I always like to whet the appetite with talking about a few songs. I'm only going to talk about one song with yourselves because I want listeners to listen to that whole album. But to give them that flavour, let's start at the beginning and just I think "I Am the Fear." As a pre-release single helps set the tone. It's the first track on the record, so it literally helps set that tone for the album. It's just such a catchy number. What can you tell me about "I Am the Fear" as a song?
Oh,
I'll
God.
let you take this one, Adam.
Um, it's written from the uh from the viewpoint of I take it you've heard "Sympathy for the Devil," the Rolling Stones song. Obviously, everybody has. Um, and it's that's written from the perspective of the devil, but it's never really actually they never actually make it that obvious and that explicit that that's what it's about. But I wanted to do the same thing, but write it about sort of anxious thoughts or whatever, as if it's an actual person, sort of like embodied in it. So that was the idea, like lyrically behind it, and I suppose the music behind it has to support that cause. If you're gonna be that gritty and miserable, then it's got to be something's got to prop it up, hasn't it? It started as a complete techno song. Nearly binned it about 3 times.
Wow.
Nearly binned it on the day that actually sent the actual thing itself to everyone to have a look at, and then add their bits to and things like that.
And we all loved it. We were just like, this is really different and exciting, and it's got the elements of all the stuff that we like. It was very sort of techno and disco, but a lot of the demos do start like that because that's the way you lean a lot of the time, innit?
Yeah, yeah. I just like that sort of thing. I mean, there was a review recently that called it industrial disco, and I was like, oh, yeah, I love a bit of that. That's pretty much what I'm trying to
Yeah,
do.
and that was actually I remember that was in early talks about the sound of the record, and I think that and Makes No Difference, and I suppose Obligations as well, and Encouragement. There's a lot of tunes that have it's four on the floor and 16th note hi hats, and it's basically just disco, but with some guitars and some rock elements as well. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I think that's what works so well with "I Am the Fear." The way the layers build at the start of the song as well, just like just let's say sets the tone for the record as a whole. Great introduction to it. So listeners to the podcast today, if you're sort of wanting to dip your toes, then go and check out "I Am the Fear." You can do that on all the usual places, the way you listen to music. I'm going to point you towards as well YouTube listeners because there's a video for it, which is where I start talking about the whole bigger package, the aesthetics around the release. There's also a video for Obligations, which I'd point you to, which all kind of build that same picture. They all link in with each other. And I'm a massive music video lover. I say I'm old school because videos are old school. I grew up watching music TV before school, after school. Just love that it adds these extra layers to the music that I fall in love with.
See, people do watch them, don't they, Matt?
I do watch them. It makes all the effort worthwhile. So I'm very, very glad that you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, sadly, it is a bit of a dying art, but the a lot of the musicians I get onto these podcasts, I really pick ones where, I've fallen that bit in love with them because, probably I have watched the music videos and it's given me that extra buy-in. So I always give a big up to the music videos on the podcast. There'll be links, listeners, you can click through if you haven't seen them to go and look at them. But how important then are, music videos still to yourself, Matt? Obviously, you seem to be the fan here.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're really proud of the videos for this one. I think you've just got to balance it because I think they cost quite a lot to make, and you don't necessarily see a return on your investment. Do you know what I mean? But you can't not do at least one. So I'm really pleased that people like the Fear video. And I think we tried to make it fun this time, so that's why we got our friend Oliver Marsden is in the video and in the obligations video, because we tried to just make it a bit more fun than just us playing along to the song, and have a little bit more of a concept and give it a reason for people to watch it, especially all the way through, because I think nowadays it's so hard to get people to watch anything for more than 30 seconds. Um, but I think, having it for the sort of catchiest and most ear-grabbing song on the record helped as well. But I think videos are important. I think, even if it just gives a bit of sort of it bridges the gap, I think, between the album cover and the music for me, and it sort of creates the sort of visual sort of aesthetic for the whole thing, as well as the outfits and the stage wear and the stage. It's all sort of connected, and um, I don't know. I wish. I don't know if we got the budget. I'd love to do something a little bit more high concept. When people release their single and it's like a 10-minute version of the lead single and it's got a bit of narrative to it, but it would have to be the right song. Do you know what I mean? Um, but I think I Am the Fears are sort of the closest thing to that without it becoming, um, pretentious or whatever. But I think they're important. We also love a live video as well. So the video for Warning Signs was like a compilation of live footage from the Amsterdam show, the Netherlands shows we did last year, and that's always really nice because you get to have the fans in it as well, and it gives a flavour of sort of how we look when we're doing what we do most of the time, which is play live.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it does, you say, bluntly, this is a business as well, and that helps, show fans, what that show looks like. And you need to get to a live show, which we will nicely segue into in just a second. But I will just quickly say, listeners as well, you've just released a series of videos, the Dagger sessions as well, which you've obviously filmed yourselves playing these songs. Gives obviously a different viewpoint for listeners, or a checkpoint here for listeners to go and look at these songs and laid out in a different way, which I think worked really, really well, and
Yeah,
I enjoyed
they're
them as well.
great. I think there's only a couple more to come, but it'll be all 10 songs from the album. So you'll basically be able to watch us playing it in the studio that we recorded, Architecture, The Art of Lying, and the first two EPs were recorded in that room as well. So that's a fun little fact for you.
Yeah, no, great idea. I really, really like that idea. So, yeah, fantastic. Listeners, again, link will be in the bio for IST IST on YouTube. Do go and check out all of what we've just spoken about. But more so, I think, is talking about the live side because fans, again, need to come and check that out. So, I mean, you've touched on, you got obviously to trial some of the songs, play some of the songs, obviously, on the earlier shows before the record come out. And now, obviously, you have played some more shows. And obviously, you've got tours coming up. But how have the songs that you've played so far translated across to the stage? Have they done so in the way you expected them to?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't really know how to expand on that. I mean, when we first tried them out, it was slightly different because we changed them a little bit in the studio. So um, I'm not 100% sure whether playing them live made us change them or not really. But I think it was just a natural process. But now we've got the full parts. There's a little bit on track as well that goes behind that you may or may not know that that's what a lot of people do these days. There might be some sort of wispy synths or whatever that play in the background that fill the sound out a little bit because Matt's only got two arms. but yeah, it was nice doing that, and I want to do more of that. Really, just trying out songs to see what sort of reaction that you get. Um, One of the things I will say is that they've been picked up very quickly. These songs, like you say, it's only been out a few weeks, and there's people quite obviously reacting to them as like fan favorites already, which is great. I'm not really sure we've had that before, if I'm honest. We might have had it with a lead single or two, but not relatively deep cuts on an album a few weeks in where you're like, album's not even out yet, and you play something and it's like, oh right, they really seem to like that one. It doesn't really, like I said before, it doesn't actually inform. Like if they didn't like it, it doesn't mean we wouldn't. Do you know? We wouldn't play it and go, oh, if people don't like that, then we'll just stop recording that. Then we still do it, but it's like it's just been picked up really quick, and it sounds a bit cocky, but we sort of know that it will really, because with experience of the last four, we know that the ones that we sort of have a good idea of the ones that will work well live. Um, and if you take, like you were talking about the Fair before, it's like it was always going to go off well that live, because it's basically just a really loud techno rock disco whatever song, isn't it? And I haven't got to play guitar in that one, so I can move about a bit and wave my arms around and things, get people going. So I know that we always knew that was going to work. It'll be quite interesting to see what happens in Europe week after next when we go, because we would talk about set list quite extensively, really. Um, I went to watch Deftones recently in Ireland, and they played
Mm.
something like 7 or 8 songs off the new album, and then a couple of all the other albums, for the set. And before I went, we were talking about how many new songs is too many new songs at a show for people who follow us around and come regularly. And we came to a conclusion. We won't tell you how many it is because that'd really surprise. Like, but you get some people where everyone goes to the bar or to the toilet when they play the new ones because they're waiting for everyone to play Creep, aren't they, or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see how that works out. But they're all going to get a run out at some point, and some will float to the surface, and some will sink a bit lower down to the bottom.
I absolutely love to hear that. I really do, because I mean I've touched on in how in many ways I'm very much a geek when it comes to music. I mean set list is another obsession of mine because there's a real science behind building a set list. It's not as simple as just playing off your sort of your biggest hits per se, because obviously you want to factor in the new songs. And I mean, to answer your question, for me personally, and I know I'm not a typical music fan these days, but for me the answer is no amount of new songs is too many. I'm coming to see the Dagger tour because I want to hear the Dagger songs, but yeah, building set list is going to work for all types of fans, and it's going to work for yourselves, both in what you want to be playing at that moment in time, what you're invested in, but what you can play with obviously the equipment you're going to be able to take on the road, and how you need to structure the set list to be able to play the songs without maybe too many changes so it flows well. Takes a lot of work to build a set list that is going to go off the way it needs to go off. Obviously, it sounds to me as if you've got a bit of that passion in you as well to make sure it's working well.
Yeah,
It's
I think we're pretty obsessed with it. We made a lot of effort at the end of last year. We did like 6 shows in Europe, and we tried out something kind of new, which was we'd reworked a couple of tunes that were a bit sort of more mellow to create a bit more of like, because some of our heavier bits are quite heavy and loud, but our softer bits, we have the capacity on certain songs to go quite reserved, or bring the pace down a little bit. So we noticed pretty instantly how effective that was once you got back to the encore and towards the end. If you create these nice little moments that dip down a bit, I'm on the piano a bit more, or Adam's interacting with the crowd a bit more with getting chance to roam about without his guitar and stuff. Um, Create a bit more tension and release. Whereas I think maybe at the start of last year we were pretty go out, absolutely annihilate everyone for an hour and 20 minutes. Whereas now it's like there's moments of annihilation and then there's moments of where you can breathe a little bit, which has been really great. And I think that's what I'm excited for now because we've got a whole batch of new material that we can work into that sort of that way of thinking about set lists. It's really funny, like, because I don't know if anyone, I mean, you sound like you care about set lists. I don't know how much other people do, but I think it's important that we do because we're building a experience for people, and we're playing bigger places as well. And I think you want to keep keep up with the way it progresses. And sort of, we're playing the Paradiso for the second time, which is amazing in Amsterdam, and it's going to sell out. And you've just that deserves your full attention. If you're going to play it for an hour and a half, you've got to really think about it and really make sure it's the best show you can do.
It's the same as the album, though, isn't it? It's like you were saying
Yeah.
before about you've got 10 songs on an album, and you put them in a certain order so that they flow well into each other and they make sense as sort of like a body of work rather than just a compilation or whatever. And it's pretty much the same with a set list. I mean, we're trying to make as much effort on even the bit where you actually come on stage. So we've got some sort of surprises in store for that, where things have been changed a little bit to accommodate, if you know what I mean, without giving too much away. But it's important to us that it is an actual journey. I know it sounds a bit, but it's like it's got to be a journey. There's got to be high points and low quieter points, and you've got to build in certain points, and you've got to maintain at certain points, and you've got to end on the right song. And if you're going to come back on and do an encore, you've got to when you come back on, it's got that encore's got to be absolutely bang on, because how do you keep the energy up if you finish on something that's quite a well-known sort of fan favorite, then when you come back on stage to do an encore, the one that follows it's got to be even bigger on it, really, or at least as big as. It's like it's. I mean, people who are really familiar with the band will know Stamp You Out, and will know Your Mind, which Your Mind's probably arguably our biggest streamer of it. Well, not arguably, it is our biggest streamer. It's arguably our biggest song. But it's quite it's quite obvious that you can't really do Stamp You Out and then do Your Mind, because Stamp You Out's just a bit faster, it's a bit louder, it's a bit more shouty. And to go into that afterwards, it's a bit strange. So you have to think about all these things. And I think a lot of these people who come to watch us as well, like you say, there might be, I mean, even if it's 50% of them are really interested in what the set list is going to be, and the other 50 don't care. They're just there for the crack, and they like them all, whatever. Or they're just there for one song. I don't know. But ultimately, I don't think everybody actually knows what they want, and they don't really know that they've actually experienced it until it's finished. I mean, I was mentioning before about Deftones. There was quite a few bits where there was there was segues into other songs, and it was like I'm sat there with my wife and my brother and sister-in-law, and I'm sat there thinking, oh, that's clever. I like the way they've done that. They've managed to merge that one into that by putting that in there. It's clever that. I wonder how they did that. I bet they used time coding on the videos and all, thinking that.
Yeah.
And they're just going, this is amazing. And you're like, they don't really know why they don't really know why they like that thing or what's going on. They just know that they like it, the sound that's coming out and the things that are flashing in front of their eyes. So it's that's yeah. So it's so important to make sure. And also as well, at the risk of going sounding a bit businessy, is that we're growing all the time. So it's very important that our stage show and our general aesthetic grows with it, because we've heard from various people in the industry that there are bands sometimes where they get up to a certain level and a stage can swallow them. It's very, very important that you can't just be playing little club venues and then go and play a 2,000 cap in the Netherlands and expect the same thing to work on stage. It just doesn't. Like it's a whole different thing. I mean, we're not up to pyrotechnics or confetti cannons just yet, but you know, it's certainly you certainly definitely think about what goes on and what needs to be done to make the experience of live um an experience and make sure that people want to come back because although we sort of write for ourselves, the stage and live experience is very much for everyone else. So that's where that bit comes in.
Yeah.
The song's not so much, but certainly the actual experience of us playing live.
Yeah.
And I suppose selfishly as well, because they just want to have fun, because it is fun, you know. So.
That's what it should
And
all
it's
be
more fun
about.
when you've got a really good set list together. It feels great, you know. It's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, you've both used the word experience, and that's what it is for me. You know, a show is an experience. You go there to experience it. If not, you just stay at home and listen to the record. You know, you want to go and experience it. So, look, hopefully, we've whet the listeners' appetites there. So, you know, just to quickly reinstate, you know, you've got the EU tour coming up in a couple of weeks. You know, which is great to get out there and play some fantastic cities. Followed up by the UK tour. Again, some great places, some great venues across the UK you're going to be hitting up. You've got Desperate Journalist and the Youth Play supporting you. Both really, really great bands that I've discovered already. So looking at that free band bill, I'm going, oh yes, that's absolutely going to be a hell of an experience. So you know, listeners, again, there'll be a link in the bio of the episode. Please do, if you can, you know, have a look and see if you can come along and experience this for yourselves. Obviously, you know, it's going to be great to hear the Dagger songs live. Really, really is. I'm looking forward to it. So we always close the podcast with, you know, we've just talked about the live side of things. I just mentioned some great venues. So I'm a massive supporter of grassroots music venues. You don't get Ed Sheeran and Adele and others without, you know, these small venues in towns and cities across the UK that, you know, the owners of are probably making a loss because you don't own a music venue in 2026 to make money. You're doing it because you love what you do. So I just always ask the guests to give a shout out to a venue in the UK, and I'm looking to make a list of the venues, and hopefully personally I'm going to go and visit them all. So you can both have a venue each. What venues would you like to give a shout out to today?
I'll go with Future Yard, which is on the Wirral, which wasn't a thing when I was a kid. When I grew up around here, there was no venues on the Wirral, and I think it's the only one that's actually got touring bands going to it. So I think they're doing a great job, and they've just announced a load of renovations, and they're building another sort of 600 cap venue, which is really nice to see.
Fantastic. Birkenhead, I want to say.
Yeah, Birkenhead, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Adam, where would you give a shout out to?
I'll go Night and Day Cafe Manchester. It's we've played many a gig there and played our first show there. So lots of memories with that one.
Yeah, another great one. Two great venues there to go on the list. As I one day I hope to get to all of them. It would be fantastic. I love live music. Can't wait to catch IST IST, obviously on this upcoming tour. Listeners, you know, final message from me is just really invest in Dagger. You know, it's such a fantastic album. I say favorite of the year from me so far. So yeah, absolutely get on it. That is my final message, but I always like to give the final message to the guests. So how would you like to end the podcast today?
Keep on rocking in the free world.
Yeah, seconded.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Well, thank you both so much for giving me your time. It's much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having us.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with IST IST. Do make sure you check out Dagger. It's a phenomenal album. And of course, catch the band on their show coming up. Please do also follow Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on X and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And again, one last request. If you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast.